Welcome to Triad All-Stars. Where are they now? Hosted by Ryan Smith.
Hello and welcome back to another episode here on Triad All-Stars. My name is Ryan Smith, and today we are starting a new series, East Forsyth High School current and former athletes and coaches joining us here on the podcast. My first guest today, he is Alec Zumwalt, currently with the Kansas City Royals, former East Forsyth standout, class of 1999. Alec, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
It's so good to have you on, Alec. Great to have you start this series on East Forsyth off. Before we get there, let's just jump right in. Tell us about your background growing up in the Triad area and how sports first came about.
Yeah, we moved to Kernersville in the late fall of 1992, and I was able to call that part of North Carolina home for 25 years before we had to move to Kansas City. So most of my kids were born there and at Winston Salem, and we were able to live near the Triad. Even we moved away for a short period of time while I was scouting with the Royals, and we lived out in Alexander County, but we've been pretty much Forsyth County for that whole time.
Yeah, and obviously you tried to do some sports growing up, but really this podcast is, again, about East Forsyth and your time there. So class of 1999, but I'll kind of let you take it from there. Tell us about your time at East Forsyth, what that was like, and just what you remember and what you really enjoyed and what stood out from your time.
First and foremost, Coach Pegram had built such a great program there. And, during the 90s, there was a lot of rivalry between East Forsyth and Glenn. Glenn, obviously, state champions in 1992. But Joe Lagarde came through East Forsyth, and then just seeing this tremendous Legion program that we had where Parkland, East Forsyth, Glenn all came together. And, in the summertime, we were best of friends and a pretty good Legion team at that. So, but Coach Pegram built a great program. Freshman year, we had a lot of really good players. John Albert went on to play at Elon. Yep. Neil Rowley was a good pitcher of ours during that time as well. And then, we had a good mix of guys at each class, all the way through. I think that truthfully, my junior year was probably the best team that we had during that 4-year run. Kevin Freeman led the way for us, left-handed pitcher that pitched at the Citadel. And he was our horse, and we just got on his back. And we always did. One thing that Coach Pegram always preached was fundamentals and defense. And, truthfully, that's one thing that I can say, all 4 years at East, we played really, really strong defense. We found ways to manufacture runs. And when we had Nick Wiedemeyer, we had Zach Morgan, when we had really good defenders up the middle with Matthew Howard, and we had Zach Wicker. We had some really good players that all went on to play college baseball. And I just truly think that it was a blessing to be able to play in that program.
I want to go back to what you just said. Fundamentals and defense, two very underrated things in all sports nowadays, not just baseball. It really just seems like if you can get those fundamentals and you can always play defense, you're going to succeed at some level. So two great traits to have for sure. You originally signed to play at UNC, but then you ended up going to the MLB. You signed with the Braves. Just to give our listeners a little bit of a background here, drafted by the Braves in the 4th round in 1999. And then you end up playing professionally for 10 years, Atlanta, Tampa, Milwaukee, Oakland. Tell us about the playing career while you were playing, and then specifically why did you go to Carolina and why straight to the majors?
That was Coach Fox's first year in North Carolina. Truth be told, I wasn't recruited before Coach Fox came in, and I had other places that I actually really liked better than Chapel Hill. Ironically, NC State was a place I really wanted to go. Coach Billy Best was the hitting coach there, and I just really hit it off with him. But they had this guy named Josh Hamilton who was committed there, and he was a pretty good high school baseball player. The best I've ever seen. And, truthfully, it just was a great opportunity. Financially, it made a lot of sense for my parents. We were putting my sister through school at the time. We had to make a decision as a family. And then, going into the senior year, getting drafted was a dream. as it got closer and things started to unravel a little bit more with you're hearing that you might get drafted and whatnot, and then you start hearing where you might get drafted. And it really changed a lot of things because I was really set. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to Chapel Hill. I wanted to be a Tar Heel. And when the Braves selected me, it was really actually something that came together magically because the day after graduation, I did a pre-draft workout at Turner Field. We left straight from graduation and drove to Atlanta, and I went on a 6-park tour, basically of pre-draft workouts, but Atlanta was the first one, and it just seemed right. So it was a no-brainer. They made it a no-brainer for me to sign, and 10 years later, had to hang them up. Didn't want to take that uniform off, but I had a young family, and we were at a real crossroad. We came home from playing winter ball in Puerto Rico, and my wife and I we made a decision that it was probably the best thing to do. And truthfully, it was the best decision I've ever made because I had to, really step away from baseball and find what my identity was. I wasn't just a baseball player. And at the end of the day, it put me where I am today.
And you did mention your family. You have a wife and 5 kids as well, 4 sons and a daughter. So a growing family at that. And talk about, before we get into your specific non-playing career, did you have a favorite place that you enjoyed playing while you were playing for the various teams? Favorite stadium, or maybe a favorite organization that you enjoyed playing with?
That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. I feel like my love for the game, I tried to find something really cool about every single baseball field. Growing up in a really small town in Northwest Arizona, where my dad thankfully took me to spring training games as a kid here in Phoenix, and getting to see major leaguers on that stage, and then going back to Kingman, Arizona, and playing baseball until I was 11 years old on an all dirt field. I learned how to appreciate the beauty and the coolness of all baseball fields, from playing Legion ball at East Rowan to, the first game I ever went to at East Forsyth, seeing Trot Nixon play on that field. To me, the majesty of a baseball field, every single field to me is a work of art.
And finally, we'll end with a few one hitters here as we get into your coaching career. So let's go to the Royals. You've hung them up, as you mentioned, and now you're with the Kansas City Royals since 2011. Just to give our listeners a bit of a background, you started out as a pro scout, and then you went to different positions: advanced scout, director of baseball operations, scouting, player development, hitting, player development, senior director of player development, hitting performance, major league hitting coach, a lot of different opportunities that you got to slide up into the organization with the Royals. Tell us about just your day-to-day now with the Royals, and what do you enjoy most about working for them?
It's a weird list, isn't it? Not exactly a normal path, but one of my best friends and the greatest coach I ever had was Andy Harper, who passed away a couple years ago. But Andy was a coach at High Point Central and was just one of my best friends I've ever had. But he pushed me into coaching in a lot of ways, and I feel like every day what I'm doing is just trying to live out what he did with his players every single day. But definitely wouldn't have scripted that path that you just listed. For me, when I got done playing, there's a 3-year stretch there where I was not in professional baseball, and I was actually working at the North Carolina Baseball Academy for Scott Bankhead, who's another tremendous coach. And I was pursuing a nursing career. I was going in a completely different direction when the Royals called about pro scouting, and it was really intriguing. And with the advice of Harp and my dad, and then being able to sit down with my wife and talk about it, if we'd have known then what the event was going to come out on this side, I don't know if I would have believed you. To be a part of a World Series team in 2015, American League Championship team in 2014, be on the front lines doing the advanced scouting that I was doing, and now to be in this role that I'm in, where we completely revamped our hitting department in 2019, and obviously the COVID year was very difficult, but for 2021, we went from bottom 3 to top 3 in the minor leagues with our hitters. And so to be a part of something that special and to do it alongside some tremendous coaches, Drew Saylor and Keone Duren, who were right there with me along the way, and Mike Tozar. I mean, these guys are just there. They all have passion to teach, and one of our tremendous coaches with the Royals has always said that your best coaches are the ones that coach. I think Coach Pegram had that as a teacher, all the way back to some of my influences, my grandmother, my aunt, who are both teachers and tremendous coaches. So I think it's in my blood. I didn't necessarily realize it when I was a player at East Forsyth, but it's definitely a big part of who I am now.
And as we close down, what do you like to enjoy off the field when you're not coaching on an off day, off season? What do you like to do on the side?
I'm a big music guy, so there's always music playing. Yeah, my Spotify list at the end of the year is quite eclectic. So music is a big part of our lives. Being now with my kids, we've got piano playing in the house. We've got guitar playing in the house. We've got sometimes drums playing in the house. Music is a big part of our family. When I can really just step away, I actually still do some art. I just try to get my mind off of things, because this is this takes up a large chunk of your day. But truthfully, having 5 kids and my wife, there's not a lot of free time in our lives. We're hustling and bustling. Yeah, we're going from one side of Kansas City to the other for baseball during the season. Last year was a new experience for us, just because with me being with the Major League club, that was so different. But I love to travel. We've always loved to travel. I love being in different cities, and I'm a foodie, so I enjoy cooking. And spring training out here in Arizona, I'm not going to go out. I will not go out to eat. I'm going to cook literally every meal here. So, that's kind of truthfully my life. Spring training is really boring for a lot of people, because, I'm in bed at 8:30 at night and up at 4:30 in the morning. And that's kind of how the schedule works out here. So not a lot of time to, go sightseeing, but when I can, I like to do it.
And where can our listeners find you on social media, or where can they connect with you if they want to follow along?
I've got to get better at this. I've been told by numerous of my players now that I've got to clean it up, because I'm a stalker. It seems like on Twitter, I read a lot more than I write. That sounds bad, but I'm always reading. So, I definitely use social media more from that standpoint. But I'm easy to find on Twitter. Alec Zumwalt, I believe, is my handle on Twitter. And then we keep Instagram private just for our family, just to post pictures for family that we're kind of separated from. I'm not a Facebooker, unfortunately. My kids have definely exposed me to the other social medias, and I'm just going to kind of stick with Twitter for now. So, but yeah, I've got to do a better job. When people ask to talk, I'll talk, but I'm not one to post things.
Sure. Yeah. And at Alec_Zumwalt is the Twitter handle there for our listeners. And bonus question as I close it out. If you didn't notice, there's a big game on Sunday. I think the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. I want to say there's a hometown team. I believe they're the stadium right next to the Royals. So do you got a prediction for Sunday? Do you like the Chiefs to win?
Well, I mean, they're the guy that plays quarterback. Last time I checked, he's one of our owners. So I definitely need to make sure I know where the bills are being paid from. Chiefs, that's something I had no idea. When we moved to Kansas City, I had no clue how crazy it is. Their fans are unbelievable. Sorry, but being in North Carolina, that was not what we had when the Panthers came to town. But yeah, it's a good one. My boss is actually a huge Eagles fan. And so it's definitely, hey, look, I really have no dog in the fight, but sure. I'm pulling for KC. So no doubt.
Of course. Well, as I said at the top, my guest today has been Kansas City Royals hitting coach Alec Zumwalt, former baseball standout at East Forsyth, class of 1999. Alec, best of luck in the rest of spring training and as 2023 gets underway with the Royals. And thanks for coming on today here on Triad All-Stars.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome to Triad All-Stars. Where are they now? Hosted by Ryan Smith.
Hello and welcome back here on Triad All-Stars. My name is Ryan Smith, and today we are in another series starting with East Forsyth, current and former head coach and players on this podcast. And my guest today currently the head golf coach and head basketball coach at East Forsyth High School. He is Coach Monty Gray. Coach, how are you?
Doing well. Hope you're doing well.
I am doing well. It's so good to have you on. Let's just dive right in, Coach. So let's start with your background growing up in Winston-Salem. Talk to me about sports and how that fit in growing up in Winston-Salem.
I was just like any other kid, bad, wanted to get out of my parents' house as much as I could. They probably wanted me out. But I just grew up playing basketball and football, Tiny Indians back in the day, and going over to the YMCA and playing. So I'm just an average kid getting in trouble and trying to find my way.
And what sports did you play, growing up? What did you kind of venture into?
Actually, I started playing football first. I didn't fall in love with basketball probably until maybe 7th grade, but football, a little bit of soccer, a lot of tennis, and, eventually ended up playing basketball.
Gotcha. And we'll transition now to high school. As you said, basketball, you grew up in Winston-Salem, made varsity as a freshman, and then you started your junior and senior year where you were all conference and all Northwest while at East Forsyth. Talk about specifically your time at East Forsyth and kind of your legacy that you feel like you left there as a player. We'll get to the coaching part later, but what legacy do you feel like you left on as a player there and just overall your time playing sports at East Forsyth?
Well, East Forsyth back then, I was scared of high school, just to be honest with you. Going into it, I really didn't know what to expect. I had an older sister that had graduated back in '85. And so, of course, I was able to kind of go to the football games, that sort of thing. But once I got to East Forsyth, it was kind of weird. It was a weird time for me because nobody knew me. I was a freshman, and so I had to kind of look up to a lot of the upperclassmen. When I made varsity as a freshman, things started changing for the better for me. Everybody was crazy about the fact that I made as a freshman on varsity, but for me, I wanted to play, and so it meant that I had to kind of humble myself and pay my dues before I actually got time on the court and I started contributing to my program. The legacy that I'd like to leave would be just to stay in your zone, stay in your craft, work extremely hard on what you love, and good things will happen.
Yeah, and speaking of those good things, you graduate East Forsyth High School, and then you go on to Winston-Salem State University, where you played for Big House Gaines there. Talk about your time playing for him.
Oh, Big House Gaines was amazing. I did not know the big deal about Big House until after I finished playing. You're talking about a legendary coach. You're talking about historical Black college standout. You're talking about someone who has changed the culture. He was awesome. He was old school, but the thing I really liked about him was that even though he was in his senior days, he was still smart and very quick with his response to how life is going, how things are going around in the society. And he was like a second father to me when I was on campus. So, Coach Gaines was always a mentor and someone I always could kind of go to. But I enjoyed my time at Winston Salem State, had a great time there, playing for the CIAA, going to the different tournaments and winning games. Join it. It was awesome.
And then post-graduation with college, you then kind of transition into your coaching and teaching career in 1998. But before I just list your stops for our listeners, how did you exactly become a coach? How did that come about?
That goes back to my old mentor, my first mentor, Donnie Holt. Donnie Holt was my head coach at the time at East Forsyth, and he was the one that actually picked me to be on varsity as a freshman. And I just like what Coach stood for. I liked the way that he kind of instilled things into our team. And, that was my mentor. I looked up to him. And so when I was trying to think about a career path, I was like, I want to be like Coach Holt, because all the time that he invested in our program and to the kids, that's what I wanted to do. And so that's how I honestly got into coaching.
And just for the listeners, I'll list a little bit of your stops here. Starting in 1998, you coached Mount Tabor, and then you were the JV head coach and assistant for 7 years there under Andy Muse. Then RJ Reynolds as well to coach the girls team for 3 years. You had Whitney Knight there. She was an All-American during her time there. You went to Glenn High School, spent 6 years there, changing that culture, shifting there. And then when you went back to school for your admin degree, you were actually at Lexington Middle School. You were an assistant principal there for 3 years. And finally, you then transitioned, COVID hit, and then Forsyth head girls coach there as well, coaching the boys team as well for 3 years. And then after COVID, you returned to East Forsyth to coach where your sons actually go as well. So as I said at the top, you were the golf coach and basketball coach here at East Forsyth now. So talk about coaching both of those teams and your current stop now at East Forsyth, and just kind of what that means today.
A lot of stops. I made a lot of great relationships everywhere I went. My biggest thing was I didn't want to feel stagnant in wherever I was, whatever school. And so, that was one of the reasons for all the moves. Now I'm home. Hopefully this will be the last stop in terms of my coaching career. The role that I play right now, I'm a graduation coach at the school. So I work with administrators and also student services. So I'm kind of a hybrid, but in all, what I'm doing right now is what I've always wanted to do, and that's to continue to coach basketball, be involved in our students, and try to give back to our community. So I'm living the dream right now, as they always say. Being so many things for the place where I started at, East Forsyth.
Yeah, we'll circle back around to the coaching in a second. When you're not coaching golf or basketball, when you're just hanging out, what do you like to do for fun? What are some of your hobbies that you enjoy?
Netflix, of course.
Of course, yes.
My wife and I will sometimes take a Saturday or Sunday evening and kind of find out what's the trending thing on Netflix. And we just sit back, relax. We do a lot of cooking here at the house. And so I'm not saying I'm a cook, but I definitely enjoy eating.
Yeah.
And just relaxing for the most part. And whenever the weather is able to be really nice, I usually try to go out and play a quick nine over by Pine Knolls over here by my house. So that's what I do. Not a whole lot, just relax.
Food and golf. I see a sense of pattern there. As we wind down here, where can our listeners find you on social media? Where can they connect with you to follow along?
On my IG, I'm greatness_vote. On Twitter, you can go to East Forsyth Men's Basketball. I'm on Facebook. I'm sure the listeners are probably not Facebook users, but if you are a Facebook user, the Greatness 1, and that's GRAYNES 1. And I haven't gotten into the TikTok yet, but when I do, I'll definitely let you know.
Well, for the record, I'm not on the TikTok as well. So that's a new one for a lot of people. Going back, my last couple questions are all about the coaching stops, and specifically, obviously, back to East Forsyth. Do you have a coaching style? Do you feel like players or coaches that you've coached with, do you have a coaching style?
I'd like to say I do, but I know 15 years ago, I coached very different from when I started out. And that's just because of society and the community and, the world has changed since over the last 15 years. So I feel like you have to be a lot more understanding. You have to be a little bit more lenient than you normally would, going back then. You have to be a player's coach. You have to understand your players. You got to be able to uplift your players, but at the same time, you got to deliver, some tough love when needed. Of course, like any other coach, you like to run, you like the pressure, you want to play team basketball, you want your players to play for each other. I try to do a little bit of both. My staff was probably helps supplement my coaching abilities because, some days I gotta be the bad cop, and my staff can turn around and always be the group that's encouraging and trying to uplift our guys. But it's just subject to change. I would say that, I've kind of tried to figure out the best way to teach our kids, and by the most part, and that's just looking at their needs and trying to just push what buttons so they can make them feel successful and make them feel empowered to do great things.
Awesome. Well said. And as we are in the middle of basketball season and then spring coming up shortly for golf season, give us just a very quick snapshot of your current basketball team this year and how the season's going, and then a quick preview for golf and what you're looking forward to the spring.
Okay. Well, first, let me tell you about golf. I kind of stepped back from golf this year because I wanted to spend more time with my son. My son will be here, so I took a step back. The head coach for the golf team will be Anthony Santiago, good friend of mine. I've known him for years. But going back to our snapshot of our season, we are currently 17-6. We're actually third right now in our conference. We just took a tough loss to a very good West Forsyth team on Friday. But I mean, I like where we are right now. We're gonna have a game tomorrow versus Glenn. Tomorrow night at 7, and we'll have 2 games. Well, actually 3, hopefully, and then when the conference championship will be over at Mount Tabor.
Yep.
It's been a fun year. Of course, I said my son plays for me. My other son is a junior. He'll be coming back. A great group of guys. They have a deep bench. We have about 9 seniors on our team, so it's definitely been fun. But we are looking forward to hopefully strengthening and lengthening our season as we keep moving forward.
Well, as you heard him, you can check out the Mids golf team this spring under Coach Anthony. We'll look forward to seeing what they do this year. And as the basketball season winds down, conference championships, state playoffs eventually as well, we'll certainly be watching carefully. Coach, thank you for your time today. Thank you for coming on Triad All-Stars. As I said at the top, my guest today has been Coach Monty Gray, head basketball coach at East Forsyth High School, class back in the day of also an athlete here at East Forsyth, and has done so many great things, not only as a player, but as a coach and then as a man in that community. Coach, thank you for coming on today at Triad All-Stars, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Absolutely. And thank you for what you do for our sports, for our young men and women in our area. Thank you.